Good morning. My name is Jason Coyle, Operations Section Chief for Southwest Area Team 1. Today is Sunday, May 22nd, and this is your operational briefing for the west zone of the Calf Canyon Hermits Peak fires. All right, last night our infrared flight mapped the entire fire at 310,016 acres. We're holding it 40% contained, and the number of personnel assigned to the incident is 2,899. So before I go to the map, I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategies and everything that the strategies we're employing on the fire, and some of the resources that we're using, and some of the limitations we experienced yesterday that may continue to impact us today. So the first thing about the strategy is that there's a saying that energy follows intention. And so we spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time making sure that we are able to communicate things with intentionality. And what I mean by that is that going over here and getting this done, or hey, we're going to do a good job, we're going to do the right things for the right reasons, we're going to do we're going to take advantage of any opportunities, that doesn't really communicate intention. So we have multiple coordination calls between myself, the other operations section chiefs, the branches, and the divisions in the field to make sure that we have that intention, so that all the energy that goes to work out there in the field can follow that intention. So with that, some things we learned yesterday that are going to inform our decisions today is that the ridge that runs from Hickory to Peak all the way down to the south and then around to North Truchas, the turbulence later in the day, even under light winds, creates a disadvantage for our fixed wing aircraft. So we're going to mix things up a little bit today with our air attack that's always up there over the top of the stack, as we call it, all the aircraft that are different types as they go up in elevation. And the intent this morning is to use the water scooping aircraft early, and then as soon as the turbulence coming off those ridges it exceeds the level that they're comfortable with, then we will switch to the heavy helicopters. And in support of those heavy helicopters, we have established another heliwell near Chacon. So there's two 15,000-gallon beer cans with the tops cut off of them, basically, that are going to be in Chacon, filled with water tenders and other water sources, to be able to support the work that's going on in Kilo that I'll talk about in a minute. And then we're also setting up, it's called a MRB, a mobile retardant base. So it's even, I don't know, like it's a 40. And if those other ones are regular beer cans, this thing's a 40. It holds 30,000 gallons. And we're going to set it up off of the 518 road. And again, all that's just designed to reduce the duration of the trips. So instead of having to go 3 or 4 miles to get water and bring it back, they'll be going a mile or two to get water and bring it back. And they'll be able to get water from a location where they know exactly how deep it is. They know there's no underwater obstructions. There's nothing they're going to hit their snorkel on and get it caught on. So all that just speeds up their ability to deliver water to the fire. That in combination with the fact that there's 9 heavy helicopters now. So with that, we're going to go to the map, and I'll explain the work that's going on today. All right, so we'll start at the big map. And over here on the northern side of the fire, on our primary contingency line, work has been completed all the way up to where it says Portecito. I'm only laughing because I told the ASL interpreter, Jasmine, that I give her the names ahead of time so she knows how to say them, how to spell them for y'all. And I didn't give her this name, and now I'm saying it. But anyways, they've got line completed up to Portecito Peak, and they're going to continue line to the east from the Division Sierra through Victor, and then they're going to continue line from the west, get that line tied in today. Once the actual dozer line is tied in across here, then they're going to start opening it up, all the timber stand in here all the way down, and improve this along this whole road. That work, like I said, is still ongoing today, and they've made good progress. The intent of that is to protect the communities to the north, the 64 corridor, and prevent the fire from moving over into Angel Fire and then possibly into Black Lake from that side. And then now they're looking at, when they get done with that, they're going to look at the options for taking this and tying it back down into the top of Division Kilo. Work over here on the west along the 518 corridor where it goes north-south was completed yesterday up to the level that we were comfortable with without closing the highway. And then we will, we have set, we call a management action point, but one of those lines out here that if fire was to get across it, it would prompt actions. In this case, this line would prompt us to request closures on the 518 road so we could finish the work that needs to be done. But we only do that if we need to, which, you know, everything else I'm going to talk about below here is designed to prevent us from needing to do that. The structure groups went into Lana Largo, and we're working to ensure that all the structures are identified on the map, and then they were beginning their structure assessment. So they do that to determine the amount of work that needs to be done around the different structures. So when they start to execute on that work, they know what equipment they need: sprinklers, pumps, hose lays, all that kind of stuff. So they're going to be in there again today doing that work. All right, we'll go over to the blow-up maps here. All right, so this is Division Kilo, we call it, and there's Chacon. And crews are still hammering away at this piece up here. It's just tough work. I mean, that's all there is to it. 5 crews in there yesterday, maybe about the same amount today. We're feeling like by the end of the day that we may be able to get this all tied in. One of the reasons that we were delayed yesterday is there's some fire up here in the tip that rolled out, so burning material rolled down the slope below them and started some other ignitions that they had to deal with before they could continue working around the line. So I said yesterday that they're putting in cup trenches here. So if you can imagine that the trench needs to be big enough to catch the rolling material. And in some of these steep slopes, when there's burnt pieces of log and everything, it's a significant amount of work to put the appropriate amount of trench in along this line to prevent that rolling material, that burning material, from rolling down and getting below them. So I guess it's kind of like a small acequia almost, the ditch going around here, and they're going to continue to do that and tie it all the way in up here to the top. And then they'll continue to work all the way around here to Martinez Pond. The good thing is, the longer we keep the fire in one place, even as they work to deal with these rollouts and the other challenges that they've faced, it consumes the fuel that's there. So, you know, we say we want to park it. So as long as we're parking the fire and it's not getting into new logs, it's just like your wood stove. You can fill your wood stove up as much as you want at night, but eventually it's going to burn out. Whereas if you add logs over get up in the middle of the night and add some logs to it, it's going to burn for longer. We're trying not to add logs to it by keeping it within the perimeter and then just allowing those logs to consume. They'll continue to monitor the dozer lines that go all the way down here, down Division Kilo, and then to the 518 road. All right, so over to the biggest challenge that we're facing right now on the west zone is Division Mike. So there's Angostura, and then the La Cueva Canyon right here, and then our dozer line that comes off here to the west of La Cueva Canyon. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of Tres Ritos. I think it's for Tres Ritos is. So between this dozer line that comes down here and this line right here is 4 miles. And as you can tell by these contour lines, it is very steep. So, you go from 9,800 feet to 10,800 feet, and the fire's draped off over that terrain all the way across here. And it's in thick mixed conifer. So yesterday we had 2 crews, one coming from each side that were working here to get in on these edges, supported with helicopters to cool off things in front of them. Today we're working to get 2 more crews in here, and we'll probably insert them by helicopter if we have the opportunity up here at this Helispot 320, and then get them plugged in where the trail meets the fire's edge going up to the knob, and then they can work one crew east and one crew west from there. We need to maintain separation from these crews because there's a lot of hazard trees in here, and there's a lot of falling of trees that will need to occur. So what seems easier, but we don't want to do, is plug one crew in after another in here so they're closely spaced. We want to keep everybody spaced out so they can do that difficult, hard work safely, or as safely as possible. Concurrent with that, we'll continue to use the heavy helicopters to put water on this part that pushed out yesterday. And then once we can get this side tied in, then we'll start to address that area there to the east northeast of Ripley Point. And then we're going to continue to look at what heat exists along this edge and making sure that we can pick that heat up and get it tied back into terrain that will not be favorable for the fire to move further to the west, which is pretty much where it's at down here. There's a lot of snow still up here. It's moved through almost all of the vegetation. So we're not as concerned about the southerly part, but we want to make sure that we don't leave any gaps, anything that could all of a sudden under a southeast wind, get into fresh fuel as we move later into the summer, and then could push out here to the northwest and then out towards Penobscot. So until we get this done, we're going to continue to work on this contingency line. We're going to continue to work on this line all the way up to Ripley Point, and we're looking today, scouting for opportunities to tie this back into the main fire. That work to segregate the fire into different sections, so we can respond more effectively to unfavorable conditions, like fire getting more active, say over here in this area, and then moving to the north. That work will continue along with all that work on that northern perimeter line until we're sure that the fire is secure. And then once that fire is secure, we'll evaluate the need for any other potential threats from other areas of the fire, and we'll make a determination on how to continue from there. But we won't stop working on our contingency lines around the north side or looking for other opportunities to reduce the amount of acres burned between that contingency line and the fire's edge until we know that option of going direct along the stuff there by Angostura is successful. And so one of the ways that is you kind of segment this out is the next 4 days, today and 3 more days, are good weather days. And what we are working very hard to do in the planning and in the execution is ensuring that we take maximum advantage of those 4 days in anticipation of a change back to some of the conditions that we've experienced in the past. We know that on day 5 from now that it's going to be another potential red flag day with strong southwest winds. We don't know how many more of those are stacked up behind it, but we do know that over the last, I think it's 47 days that y'all have been dealing with this fire, that there hasn't been a lot of good days in a row. And so I think one of the biggest errors that we could make in executing our strategy will be counting on the fact that after that one wind event that we're going to go back to good conditions. So we're basically looking at this plan like we have 4 days to execute, and that we need to be able to hold on to whatever successes we've gained, and we need to continue to build contingencies in the event that those successes aren't enough to keep the fire at or near its current footprint. And then then we get through those wind events, or maybe there's better weather behind it, great. But we're not gonna build a plan based on hoping there's better weather, hoping that everything stays in a milder climate. It's until the monsoons come, and there's hope is not a part of this plan. The plan's going to be based on a very pessimistic view of the future, and we're going to execute actions to reduce the likelihood that the fire threatens the values, people's homes, communities, the cultural values, and we're going to execute on that until such time as it's out. So with that, that'll end today's operational update. Thank you.